So I came across a blog post today titled "The Techno Optimist's Guide to Future-Proofing Your Child." Now that's a mouthful, but it's a really interesting topic that I have thought a lot about over the last 15 years, maybe 20. I first started writing about kind of my thoughts on education and the value and types of education that matter back in 2008 or 2009. And then I got really interested in this after I had a kid. And around the time my son was maybe 3 or 4, there was a TEDx talk by a kid. Kid's name was Logan something, but the talk was about unschooling or hack schooling. It's like why hack schooling works for me or something to that effect. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you're trying to raise a really capable kid, giving them more control over the shape of their education makes sense. But anyhow, this article I was reading today was really talking about how do you prepare your kid for a world in which AI is exceptionally capable, perhaps so capable that it might be doing the jobs that your kid would have had. And it explores a lot of different paths. So, is AI going to take all the jobs? Is it going to take some of the jobs? If it only takes some of the jobs, which jobs is it going to take? Like, what do you tell your kid to study? And I actually wrote a post about this in early 2016, which is that AI and robots are going to take the jobs or take all the jobs away. I can't remember if it was for Inc. or Entrepreneur that I wrote that, but it was an interesting post because at the time I was trying to make the case that it's probably only going to take some jobs. And keep in mind, 2015, 2016, like AI was not super capable outside of exceptionally narrow domains. And so I was thinking, all right, well, any sort of job that's just really narrow and well bounded is going to be fair game, whether that's a legal researcher or a radiologist or something where your job is extremely narrow in scope. And surprise, surprise, it was actually a lot of creative jobs that got hit first when AI became really capable. But anyway, I've given a lot of thought to this over the years. And so the question, how do you prepare your kid for an AI first world? How do you shape their education for a world in which AI and robots are likely going to be able to do and might be doing all the previous for money jobs? And what does that timeline look like? Like, if your kid is, 16 or 17, like maybe they have a little bit of runway and the shape of their job path or career path is going to be different. But if you have a kid who's like 3 or 4, well, now what? I mean, 14 years from now, like that's a really long time in AI years. That's like centuries, or at least that's what it feels like based on how fast things are going. So the question, how do you prepare your kid for the things that are happening now, technologically, AI in particular? The article covered some good ground. I mean, it looked at a lot of things. It looked at unschooling. It looked at the sovereign child. It looked at, prepping them to be like high agency. And I think all of these are decent. I I'm not really going to be able to give you like a straightforward answer because I still struggle with this. But the approach that I've taken with my kid is that regardless of how the world is shaped in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, there are going to be some things that will be consistently valuable. One of those is the ability to introspect, to really poke at yourself and understand what's going on under the hood. Another will be to be able to articulate what it is you want or need and why. But I think one of the most important is just going to be able to deeply understand what you love. What is it that actually moves your needle, that makes you happy, that you would do for free, that looks like play, feels like play to you, but looks like work to others, as Naval would say. And so I've kind of taken that approach with my own kid, which is trying to feel out his strengths and weaknesses and steer him towards something that he's best suited to. And I mean, he's controlling that. Like that's his call. He wants to be a game developer, which I think is great. But as the on the education side of that, I've then emphasized, all right, well, here are the things that matter to game development now. And here are the weak points. Here are the things that maybe won't be so important or that AI will be able to do easily in a short period of time. So he's learning how to use, he's already a fairly competent coder, but he's learning how to use AI to augment his coding capabilities, to debug or refactor, learning how to use various different AI tools to help with game designs, even if it's just like preliminary sketches or level ideas, how to use tools like Suno or Udio to make music, how to take a 2D image and turn it into a 3D model with like scenario, a bunch of different things. And so really all I can do is prepare him to use the tools that are available now and to enjoy the process, like whatever that process may be. But I don't know that there's any way to truly prepare your kid or to prepare anybody for just how much things are likely to change in the next handful of years. I mean the changes are going to be wild. Like literally wild. AI capability is accelerating so fast. I think all I could say is that at least for the next couple of years, the people who understand how to use AI tools well and are integrating them into their workflows, like those people are going to be invaluable. But beyond the next handful of years, like I couldn't say. I see so many things changing. I think the best you can do is just make sure that your kid is having a happy life, that they are exposed to interesting things. So I guess this is one creativity I think will still matter. Granted, I don't we're starting to see some inklings that AI can be genuinely creative. And that makes sense because creativity is really just remixing ideas. And the more ideas that you've been exposed to, the easier it is for you to be creative because you know how to remix. And I think that's a good one. So a diverse education, and not like in the formal education sense, but just diverse exposure to ideas, concepts, media, tools, whatever that happens to be. Because until you have a really wide set of exposures, you may not know what you're interested in. You may not have found the thing you're really going to love doing. And so I think doing that is a key part of educating a child for the coming high change, high flux years. I mean, even in general, but especially now, I think just exposing them to a lot of different things so that they can see what they might be interested in. And there's this idea, I've heard a lot of people talk about it fearfully, that if AI takes the jobs, what will people do for meaning? And I always chuckle. It's like, really? So you realize that there's a huge difference between what you do for money and what you do for meaning. And while sometimes those things overlap, if you derive meaning from what you do for money, it's probably mostly not from the money. There are certainly some people who play the number go up game and all they care about is money as if it's a high score in a video game. So for those people, yeah, like maybe they're going to be fucked. But I think for most other people, if you've been lucky enough to find work that you love doing, it doesn't really matter if AI or robots can do that work. It doesn't stop you from doing it. I mean, if you're an artist, it doesn't matter if AI can create art, you can still create art. There's room for infinite artists. Maybe not infinite artists who can make a living, but what if you don't need to? What if you could just do art without ever having to worry about the monetization side of it? Because I know from talking to a lot of artists of all different types, visual, writing, games, like you name it, most people don't enjoy the monetization portion of their art. They hate that. If anything, it detracts from the love of the art. It feels like it spoils it. So, my hope is that we will leverage technologies like AI and robots to create a world where people don't have to worry about the bottom two rungs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Everybody will have food and shelter and clothing and safety without having to do for money work. And then you'll be able to use perhaps it's an allotment of energy and compute to make things, whatever the other personalization, custom things that you want and need. But in a world where you don't really have to work to live and you can work to love, I feel like that opens up an enormous number of doors. So teaching your kid how to find what they love and how to do that and why that matters, even in a world where machines can do something similar, no, I think that's probably a good thing to do. So would I be pressuring my kid to do well in school and have a ton of extracurriculars and go to college and follow the traditional path at this point in time? Absolutely not, regardless of how old they are. I mean, unless they're like turning 18 tomorrow. But even then, I mean, if they haven't even started college, 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 years from now, like, will what they're studying in college be of any value whatsoever? I mean, maybe if it's some sort of liberal arts degree or it's something that they just want to do because they love it. But as a career path, I don't think so. I mean, college has been diminishing in value for a long time outside of a few specialized areas. But now, there's no way. I wouldn't recommend that anybody put their money into college unless it's just for the social exposure, the peer groups. I think there's a lot better ways. Is the answer to do some sort of trade school type approach? I mean, maybe. I just think we're going to have a weird handful of years, and maybe you should try to figure out what you love and do that as much as you can while things shift. And otherwise, just the best thing you could do for yourself and your kid is to get yourself using as many AI tools as you can. Explore. I mean, there's hundreds, there's dozens that are just absolutely top tier, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different tools out there for all sorts of things. And I think just the process of exploring how you can use those to do things, how you could use those to unlock your creativity. I mean, to give an example, and this video is getting a little long, but I'll give you one example. So Stardew Valley is one of the most successful indie games of all time, built by a single developer. And if I remember correctly, I think it took him 6 or 7 years, start to finish, to make the game. And that was released, what, a decade ago? More than a decade ago? That's a long time. But I think with AI tools at your disposal, you could make a similar game right now in 6 months, maybe less. So the value of these AI tools is that they allow you to do things that used to take a lot longer, a lot quicker. They shorten your timelines. And so that allows you to do a lot more experimentation more quickly at lower cost. And so there's less risk for each swing that you take. And if there's anything I've learned from observing successful people, the number of times at bat is a very important variable. And so if you have the ability to get up to bat more at lower risk, that's amazing. So you could iterate on ideas so fast. You could try a dozen different things in the time that it once would have taken you to do one thing. I think that's huge. That's a very large unlock for creativity. So I would recommend encouraging your child to explore their creativity, learn how to use these tools, just explore widely so they're exposed to a lot of different ideas, different types of media, different types of thought, um, and get really good at communication and interpersonal skills because there's going to be a lot more of that going forward. Anyway, cheers.